Hey, this is Jeff Justice with Jeff Justice Seminars for Court Reporters, and we are delighted that you picked us to get some of your online CEUs with. So you notice now you probably got a PDF. Go ahead and print that out so you can follow along with it with the course here. And at the end, you can scan it or send it back to us, or just put the answers into an email and send it to us, and we will get you your answers back and your score back right away and take care of getting you your CEUs. So get ready to laugh and learn with Jeff Justice Seminars for Court Reporters.
The workshop today is divided into two sections. Let me tell you first that there is no magic to getting through the handout. I'm not going to read to you. Some of it is written just to be read, and I may go over and touch a few points, and if it's something that brings forth a lot of questions or someone clearly doesn't understand or clearly disagrees with something that's in the material, then we'll stop and go over it more. But some of it is just something that this is how I do this. If you don't have a good way to do it, you might consider this. So some of it I deliberately will not cover in a lot of depth. Unless you, and looking through it, go, wait a minute, I'd like to stop and do this. So there's no magic to covering every point in the book. This is your workshop. I know you, like me, are here to get your hours, and if you had your druthers, can think of a few other things you'd rather be doing today. I understand that entirely, but it is your workshop, and I encourage you to take advantage of it. If, as Jeff said at the beginning, if I don't know the answer to something relating to court reporting, somebody else in this room probably does. If you have a situation and don't know how to handle it, and I don't have a great answer for you, I bet someone in this room has had a similar experience and would be willing to share a great way to handle something. And I encourage you to help one another and to bring out ideas. So I do encourage you to discuss, and if we touch on something and that reminds you of something that's related, bring it up. If it's not in the material, go, well, she's not going to cover this topic, therefore I can't bring it up. That ain't right. Anything related to court reporting, let's go for it, because your question or comment is going to help somebody else in the room. If you're sitting here thinking, I don't want to ask that because I'm the only person in the world that doesn't understand the difference between affect and effect, I can promise you, you are not the only person in the room. So don't be scared to bring something up just because you think you're the only one. Now, if we're talking about issues that relate to dealing with folks that are difficult or a troublesome situation, and the problem is sitting next to you, you know what I mean? That you disagree vehemently with, well, don't y'all start fighting now. They're just gonna disorderly conduct.
We don't see each other.
Oh, $1,000 fine or 60 days in jail or both. Sorry, we did ordinance court all day Thursday, so I'm still kind of in ordinance mode. But really, if it's something and you know that the problem or someone that disagrees with you completely is sitting here and you don't want to discuss it in front of the group, or you're not the type of person to speak in a group, and some people just don't prefer to do that. And by the way, I'll never call on anyone directly. I don't, unless you start talking a whole lot and annoy me, then I might embarrass you publicly, but we'll just see how that goes. But if you'll go to the second page of the booklet that you've got, everyone does have a booklet, correct? And Jeff put 2010 workshops. This is the same or similar to the workshops. We did this for Texas, but that's an entirely different story. You will see my name. You see down at the bottom my name and address, phone number, email address, and website. If you go to my website, first of all, it is completely out of date. My nephew-in-law is my webmaster. He does it for free, which means I really can't push him a whole lot. You know how that works. And also, his wife just got a new job. They've got 2 kids. The daughter, she's fine, but she's got some ear problems and some little infections, and my sweet niece Angie that I help raise has to do a lot of caretaking. So, and James will use, he's a computer whiz for American Airlines. He'll use any excuse to be on the computer and not do the dishes and help my niece. So I'm very careful about not calling him and making him update my website too much, because it becomes a family problem. But if you go to my website, it is, some of the things are correct, but my upcoming personal workshops in Georgia are out of date. But that's that. Anything that we don't go over or that you prefer not to discuss and you have any question or comment about, feel free to email me. Calling is fine, but emailing is better. And my email address is correct. It is bizarre, so since so many of you have not heard me speak before, I feel like I need to go over it with you. It is Sue Lee Etar. That's bizarre. I'm Sue, my husband is Lee, and we had just lost our little dog. I don't want to talk about it. It makes me sad, yes, every time. But Etar, she died of a heart attack in my husband's arms. Oh, I'm gone. I'm sorry. Who here is a true animal? A lot of court reporters are. You know why? Because we know how evil people can be. I believe it. And animals are good. But anyway, she was a foundling, and Etar had a long, happy life with us. But so I put her name there. Okay, I'm an English major, graduate of Duke. Woohoo! I put 3 E's in a row. Real smart, real clever. So the 3 E's are correct. And then Comcast said, we need a number, because there might be somebody else that uses the name Sue Lee Etar. I don't think so. Sue Lee I could see, but that Etar, you know, throws a little strangeness into it. And instead of picking 4 or 8, I used the number 1, which looks like lowercase l. Again, Duke graduate English. I'm not speaking very well for my intellect, am I? Y'all want your money back? No, I'm kidding. So if you email me and it doesn't work, and you call me going, I apologize for calling, but I know you said to email, but it's wrong. You either forgot the 3 E's or used the lowercase l instead of the number 1. Okay, so now I've talked 5 minutes about an email address because of my own darn stupidity, but there it is. Please feel free to email me. I usually email back unless I'm out of town within 24 hours. If it's something dealing with a client or a coworker or some odd situation or some boo-boo you made and you're trying to figure out the best way to work yourself out of it, I don't know that I will have the answer, but I'll be glad to give you my opinion, be glad to help you compose a letter to some idiot attorney, to some attorney. Well, you know, we got to have them. We wouldn't have jobs without attorneys. But let's say it's a love-hate relationship. Is that fair enough? And I would hyphenate love-hate because it's both and, right? Not either or, so no slash mark, which is also called a virgule, but that's for another time possibly. But feel free to email me about anything. I'll give you my opinion. If it's grammar, punctuation, you've come up with the paragraph from you know where, and you go, okay, you think you're an expert, punctuate this, old lady. I bet you I can punctuate it. If you've tried every other means of looking up something for research and you can't find something, don't use me as a reference librarian and ask me to do all your research. That ain't gonna do it. But if it's something real bizarre and you can't find it, I might know it, because research is my favorite thing to do. Thank you for laughing. I once had it was about the 3rd time I'd spoken to this group in a little city outside of Carrollton that for some reason is the repository of about 30 reporters that all work together. So they've been with me a long time and they knew me pretty well. And one lady said, you know, see, you're crazy. You could be put away for your love of research. So thank you for laughing. It's true, I do. Well, I think it's our job to do research, but I enjoy doing it, and I like puzzles. I really could have been a reference librarian, and I don't like to get stuck on anything. So, things that are very difficult, I'd love to help you figure it out just because I enjoy it. It's like a crossword puzzle to me. But please feel free to email me. And it's not just me being generous. It's that, well, partly you've paid good money. You might as well get a little follow-up from it, from the workshop. But also, I learn a lot, and I come up with great ideas or things that I could use in other workshops. I promise never to use your name or take it in vain, but in fact, some of the situations I bring up, somebody in this room may have brought to my attention before. So if you see, that's my situation, you won't see your name attached to it or anything like that, but I get great ideas from your comments and questions, so it benefits me. So please feel free to email me about anything we don't cover or that comes up along the way. I'd be glad to work with you any way I can. If you go to the next page in our handout, I've pretty much done the introduction. We're on the index, and the first two items do not have any pages attached to them. As you can see, it doesn't ask you to go to any page. The role is reporters. Is everybody where I am? Have you found it? Am I still talking loud enough? Well, obviously you laughed good at what I said about research, but you're wearing Duke blue and white, so hey, glad to have you. Thank you for you did that because you knew I love Duke, didn't you? You lie beautifully. Thank you. No, I'm kidding. A great attribute. But the first two elements are things that we're just going to discuss now. And as Jeff mentioned, as we go through, I know sometimes in the morning, especially after a little coffee, you might need to step out for a minute, do what you need to do. If I need to I'll figure something out so that you don't lose time with me needing to take a break. But I'm in pretty good shape right now. As we discuss our role as reporters, let me kind of get a lay of the land and learn a little bit about you. How many of you are brand new reporters? Anybody? Maybe, how about worked less than 5 years, let's say, where you're still seasoned reporters. I love it. How many of you have been reporting for at least 5 years? All of you, just about all of you. At least 10 years. Anybody? Can we go for 15? Uh-oh, pretty soon y'all gonna all be reporting longer than I have. I'm gonna go back to my room and take a nap. Y'all take turns up here and... Oh wait, there's the video. They'll know it's not me. 20? Okay, y'all been reporting longer than I have because this is a third career for me. Can we go for 25? Lord have mercy, as we say in the South. 30? Some of you too young. Oh, you've been living a much cleaner life than I have. 35? Oh, it's getting good. 40? Whoa! Sir, the only guy and you're the big winner. How long have you been reporting?
44 years.
Wow. And look, he's able to sit up, take nourishment. Congratulations. It's a good job, isn't it?
Yes.
The lady that I had mentioned earlier that did not test well, Connie, who had trained me and was my mentor, and I hope for those of you that along the way have had someone that took you under his or her wing and have helped you. It's a good thing to do for other reporters. She promised me one thing. She said, there's a lot of anxiety and frustration and sometimes cash flow issues, but I promise you, you'll never be bored and you'll learn something new every day. And that has sure been the truth for me. If you're open to really, we could all go on Jeopardy, couldn't we? How many of you own a firm? Anybody here own a firm? How many of you work for a firm? How many of you work all by yourself? All by yourself. Any officials here? Okay, since I've been an official most of my reporting life, I'm going to do my best not to glom too much on officials, because I've had people say, you talk too much about something I don't do. But please keep in mind, and I learned this interestingly I started out as the proofer and office manager for a firm, then went back and became a reporter, did freelance, well, I worked with Connie and did depositions and some administrative hearings, which I don't recommend to anyone. And then the opening came up with Judge Jennings and Judge Allen, and I became an official. So, and I've been doing the official since 1998. So I've done a little bit of all of it. And when I was the office manager for Connie's business, and I would find that there'd be certain weeks of the month and certain days of the week when we'd have tons of depositions. We barely had enough people to cover. We'd have work we'd have to overflow work we'd have to send down, and then other days everyone's in the office going, we're never going to get another deposition again. It never made sense to me, but when I became an official, I realized depositions are done around the court calendar. Duh. Aren't they? I mean, really, if they want an expert witness and he or she cannot come to court, they're going to make sure they've got that done and filed so they can read it into the record. Or at least in Georgia, you're permitted to read it into the record in lieu of live testimony. Can you do that here? It's awful. I mean, it's the stupidest thing in the world to do. If I were an attorney, I'd pay the money every time to get a witness there, because, you know, usually they have a colleague or the secretary to come in, and it's just the most boring thing. I sit facing the jury, and the jury's all bright and clean and shiny and ready to do their civic duty. And about halfway through a doctor's deposition, especially a clinical psychologist, you know, the thuds as their heads fall to they just fall out of their chairs in the jury box. But that is so boring not to have the live person there. But anyway, the two, deposition work and court work, are so interconnected. And some of you that do depositions, you may at some point decide you want to be an official. So it doesn't hurt to learn about it. Or you may get called in. And I don't know for sure about New Jersey, but I do know about Georgia that per diem, is that how it works? Some of you that are officials, where if you're there for 5 minutes, you get paid for the whole day. Does it work that way here? You're expected to be there the whole day, but you're there for 5 minutes, the case settles, but you still bill for the whole day? Oh, it's real nice. But anyway, if that doesn't work that way here, then that's no incentive. Or you may be an official, and how many of you that are officials work for an elected judge who has to run for office? If your judge loses an election, that's my situation, what happens to you? Do you automatically go with the new judge? You do. That's law. In Georgia, you serve at the pleasure of the judge, whether you're an employee of the state, county, or whatever, or whether you're a federal employee. And if my Judge Jennings, our chief judge, were to lose an election, and a couple of years back there was an awful road wreck case, and the press and some of the public did not like his decision, though it was based on law. It was an awful situation. And so the local newspaper, there's only one, so it's a monopoly, tried to drum him out and got someone to run against him who, I don't know how he passed the bar. I think he passed other kind of bars, and no, I don't know, that's mean. But I like my Judge Jennings, so I didn't like anybody running against him. And had Judge Jennings lost, well, I wouldn't have worked for the other guy, but he would have picked his reporter, and I bet it wouldn't have been me. So there's some issues with it, but if you decide you're sick of being an official and go back to doing depositions, it doesn't hurt to hear about depositions. So I'll try to cover that as evenly as I can across the board. How many of you aren't currently reporting but keeping your license because it's too much trouble to go back and get it? Anybody? There's usually 2 or 3, usually they're mommies that are staying at home, which I think is wonderful if you can do it, but don't want to give up their license. What is our job as a reporter? I come up with only two things. We take down proceedings, and we prepare transcripts based on those proceedings as needed. That's it, isn't it? It's a real simple job, and it's a simple job to explain once people get over, being concerned about what that machine is in front of you, and, what are you doing with it? Of course, it's a lot more complicated than that. Something that has concerned me over the last few years has been that in some states, and I think New Jersey might be one of them, don't know about Pennsylvania, though I know there have been issues in the past in Pennsylvania. Some people think they can do without court reporters. Isn't that becoming an issue here? I read an article about a case where, I think it was the court case, you'll know better than I will, in New Jersey, that was videotaped, and there was an issue about the jury being able to see the video, and it looks to me like it might be the beginning of wanting to replace court reporters with videos, which they're trying to do in Texas. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? No? If you will email me, I've saved that article. I think Jeff sent it to me. If you will email me, I'll email you. I'll forward that article to you. But it looks like there might be some interest here in trying to replace reporters with recording. Is that true? Anybody?
In Superior Court or all over?
All over.
Really? It's scary.
It's scary. So yes, ma'am.
A few of us are officials in New York.
Hey, New York.
So we have the issue of electronic recordings, not necessarily video, but we have electronic recordings replacing the threat to replace reporters.
But right now, the comment that she made, Sarah, remember to repeat, is that in New York, there is the issue there's a threat to replace court reporters with some electronic means, and that's the way they usually write it. Like an audio that would be for depositions or for court, where there are companies, and I know that they're doing it now in Georgia. I first heard of them in Florida. The company is called, I can't remember, but it's something like WordPerfect. They've taken off on the name of a program, and what they do is they go in and mic a courtroom, set up a microphone system, a system where the judge has a button or some mechanism where he or she can turn it on and off, and it records everything, and then you take the recording. Someone, the secretary, a clerk, bailiff, packages up the tapes at the end of the day or at the end of the proceeding, sends them to this company, and they transcribe them. And Jeff and I did a workshop in Jacksonville a few years back, and someone brought their brochure, because they know I talk about the issue of replacing us, and the brochure promised perfect transcripts every time. Perfect transcripts every time. How many of you believe that from a tape, without a reporter there, you can get a perfect transcript every time? If you believe that, I've got some land I can sell you for a real cheap price. Not possible, is it? I am a real good proofer. I've got good research skills. I've got a great understanding of grammar and punctuation. And because of that, I'm blessed. I can take an awful paragraph and make it readable. And some of the rest of you the same way. And it's a wonderful skill to have. Attorneys never know we've done it. But when they get the document, I've had attorneys say, that was an awful case. The witness was terrible, but you know, when it was in print, it's readable. That's me, that's punctuation. And every now and then I find myself going, thank you, because I know I did it. And that's when you're really cooking as a reporter. That can't be replaced. But but even with that skill, I've made errors. How many of you have worked like a fool and done your best and still there's some dumb, stupid mistake and do you do erratas in New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania? Errata sheets for depositions where the person has a right to read and sign the deposition and make changes.
Only in district court cases.
Only in?
Superior court, it's automatically waived. District court cases, it happens.
How about for depositions?
Well, that's what I mean.
Oh, for depositions well, I didn't know that. That's good to know. In Georgia, the legislature about 10 years ago changed the rule, and I don't know if this is true here or not, but when I first started doing depositions, you could only change issues of accuracy. They spelled a family name wrong, homonym that was wrong, and the deponent happened to catch it. 10 years ago, the state, in its infinite wisdom, when I say infinite wisdom, I don't mean infinite wisdom, do I? The state decided that a deponent could change anything, which means they will add pages of extra testimony. And the first few errata sheets I got back, you know, that like this thick, and I'm going, I make an error every now and then, but I ain't made that many mistakes. But they're allowed to change testimony. Is that true anywhere else? Isn't that bizarre? That's just an awful, but that's another legal
How do
issue.
you certify to the accuracy of that as the reporter? Do you sign the transcript because it's not what was said?
Well,
You sign it before they make the change.
right, but the proceeding you say is accurate. In fact, your signature is more important than ever in a case like that. What I've put here is accurate. What they've done is add. So it's, does that make sense?
Yeah, they can change what they said, but it shows what they said and what they changed it to.
Right. So your certificate of accuracy becomes even more important. And you're not certifying the errata. It's added after, not before the certificate, or should be. I do. And that's really where it belongs, because you're not certifying anything on the errata. You may be cringing if you made a dumb error. I once did a deposition of, and I'm not a medical whiz. That's an area where if you've got a medical research, find anybody else but me. I've gotten better over the years, but that's just not been an area of expertise. And I once did a doctor from Colombia, South America, and his accent was thick. I've forgotten his field, but it was not orthopedic, we all know, right? Court reporters, orthopedic, chiropractor, that goes hand in hand. Some of you may do, especially if you do a lot of divorce work or juvenile work, you get into the psychologist and psychiatrist, because that comes up, you know, daddy was evil and we don't want him to have custody or want him to be able to see his child, and we took the child to the psychiatrist. So based on the areas we work in, we do get some medical, but this was a field that was just hematology, something that I just knew nothing about. So the research was awful. I had to do a ton of research. His accent was awful. I used a backup tape. I had to have it. I hate to say it, but it was just toughest deposition I've ever done. Only thing on the errata sheet was, guess how I spelled Columbia? Sue, queen of grammar and punctuation and research. And where do you live? And doctor, I noticed that you have an accent. Where were you born? Colombia, South America. I spelled it C-O-L-U. And Colombia, when you're talking about, as some of you know from art history in college, pre-Columbian art, And as all of you ought to know, and if you ever do drug cases, Columbia may come up, is Colombia. Everyone would have gotten that right, wouldn't they, but me? Nah, it's an easy one to slip by, especially living in Georgia next to South Carolina, where Columbia, with a U, South Carolina, is the state capital. Duh. And see, I've not forgotten that. That's been 15 years ago, and that still sticks in my craw that I made a dumb error. But yeah, perfect transcripts every time from this yoo-hoo firm that's got an audio in the room. Why are they after court reporters, you may ask? Let's plumb this a minute. You don't know? I do.
The mighty dollar, right?
Well, the mighty dollar, right, Diane, right?
Right.
Okay, I'm not going to go to politics because that's a no-win situation. And interest, huh? Control. But I have found that many states, most states, all states are hurting for money. Georgia is, I know, it's awful. I've read some things about New Jersey. I know they're hurting for money. I know there's some issues going on with the education system here, which I won't talk about because it ain't my business, but as an educator, you know, I like my school teacher. School teacher, by the way, is one word. Everyone knows that, right? And now you do if you didn't. But the reality is that we are a small profession. In the greater scheme of jobs in this country, would you all agree that there ain't that many of us? Really?
Yeah.
Ain't many reporters. In Georgia, there are 1,200. You know how many there are in New Jersey or New York? I mean, there'll be more. In Pennsylvania, there'll be more, but some states have 20. They want me to go speak to the Wyoming Court Reporters Association, and they've got, I think, 22 reporters statewide. There ain't many people there. They don't have that many judicial circuits. But I'm going, and I can't charge you much because they, you know, but I've never been to Wyoming, and they're going to have it at the, and this is terrible, Tetons, that's what I thought. And I've never been there and never seen them, and people say they're magnificent. So I'm going to go do it, even for a little bit of money, just because I want to see that part of the country. But, so even if there are more than 1,200, I'm sure there are in New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania, we're still, in the greater scheme of things, a small profession. We're not doctors. We're not manufacturers. We're not teamsters. We're a little group. Every state has a state association that works ideally for the benefit of reporters. In Georgia, it's a nice group of people, and finally they've hired a lobbyist for us, but you know, with the money we pay in to be members. But even with that, it's still a small group. It's a female-dominated profession, would you say? If you looked in this room, would you say? Though originally it was mostly men. So there are a lot of issues there. And I noticed some of you gals are awfully young, but I remember when people assumed that women were working for fun or for clothes money because we all had husbands to support us. Let's have a little group laughter over that. And I've heard a judge in Augusta, Richmond County, not one of my judges, say, I don't know why they want so much money. Their husbands support them. Just said it out loud in a group meeting, as if, you know, he was saying, looks like it might rain. Just, you know, a statement of fact. And that, in fact, I think some politician at the national level said that recently about another female-dominated profession. You know, we're working just for extra clothes money. or to buy for Christmas? How many of you are working for the fun of it only? Raise your hands. Give the rest of us some money. Take care of us. So, there's some attitudes involved. It's an easy group to go after. And I don't know what I know about New Jersey. In New Jersey, in every state, what is the primary profession of your legislators before they became legislators? Lawyers. Have you ever had a lawyer say, how come you charge so much? Yes. Now is it all? I think these are the reasons why. We're an easy profession to go after because we're small. Not a lot of us. The people that make the decision and are trying to save money may, for whatever reason, assume that we really ought to be making minimum wage when some of us actually charge maybe about 2/3 of what we ought to be making. And there may be a negativity about that. What can we do about that? About the desire to replace us? Nothing. Well, now I've depressed you. Let's all go find a drink. The one thing that we can do, or actually there are 3 things, and I put the initials up there, but you're wondering what that was. The ramblings of some old 63-year-old woman from Augusta, Georgia. No, there is method to my madness. The things we can do, okay, our role, take down transcripts, real simple. That we can do is, first of all, make sure that our work is quality work every time. I used to, every now and then I'll go to a workshop, and I realize you are here primarily to get your credits. You're not here just for fun. This is not how many of you choose to spend a Saturday. But I honestly believe that many reporters come to our workshop because it's a topic of interest to them. That grammar, punctuation, doing a good job is something that matters to you. So I don't hear this often, but every now and then in a workshop, I'll have a reporter say, they'll raise their hand. Usually they're sitting there rolling their eyes at me and quietly, texting someone or reading the newspaper and turning the paper real loud so I know they're not paying any attention. And I don't go take it from them or slap them because that would be wrong. Theft or simple assault can cause you to lose your license, though. I don't know. I'm on the steroids. I might have actually done it. But, and they'll raise their hand toward the end of the workshop, and poor old Sue McDuffie that truly believes everybody is good and honest and honorable. Judge Jennings says I'm the most gullible and naive 60-year-old he's ever met. But that was some years back, and it's still true. I go, oh, they were paying attention. Here they are with a great question, and I go, yes, ma'am. And she says, I don't know why we have these kind of workshops. All you need is spell check. And the Southern response to that is, uh-huh. Or, bless your heart. And bless your heart, think of something that I can't say publicly that would be the opposite of bless your heart. Okay, you got it? I knew you did. But that is, the days of me kind of smirking about that are over. This profession can't use people with that attitude. And that's why I was asking earlier about owning a firm partially. You don't need reporters that do that. I'm serious. Because every time someone has that attitude and produces the transcript that someone with that attitude will produce, which won't be any good, will it? You've got a legislator standing up in front of his colleagues or her colleagues going, this is why tape recorder's just as good. These people aren't earning their keep. This is nothing. Do a good job. Do the best job you can and do it every time. I don't care if it's somebody that doesn't pay that well, somebody that's giving you a hard time. I don't care if it was the worst deposition in the world. Do your research, spend the time, proof it, do the best job you can. That's what we're paid for. Really, that is the job. An accurate, complete transcript. Be professional. That's the P up there, see the P. I hate to say this, and I bet it's not true of anyone in this room, but in the last few workshops I've done where we've talked about these sorts of issues, I've had folks that own firms tell me at breaks, say something about being on time. It would have never occurred to me. I mean, Connie taught me, if you're not 30 minutes early, you're late. And that has served me very well because things happen. Your directions may not be that great. If you've ever, I know everybody's got a GPS in the world but me, that's actually too distracting for someone like me at my age to have in a car. You know, let me just stick to driving, that's all I can do. But, you know, if you, what is it, the maps.com, Yahoo Maps, there are a couple, MapQuest is just wrong. Just bad, bad, bad. And you know, you might need that extra 30 minutes to actually get there when you've printed your little map and it's somewhere you've never been. But it would have never occurred to me to feel like I needed to say to fellow reporters, get there on time. So, but now I mention it every time. You got, I mean, these are things, the tape recorder's already there. In your depositions, in court work, be careful about interrupting and being too loud. You know, you don't need the clanking, do you? And I've known, there is a court reporter, bless her heart, she suits up beautifully, nice as she can be, and I can walk outside her courtroom and hear the clank, clank, clank. This is not good. Oh boy, about 10 of you have got your mouths open and your teeth gritting when I said that. It bothers you as much as it bothers me, doesn't it? Tacky, 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 tacky. Bad for the profession. Tape recorder's not making that noise. Don't gossip about the session you were just in. Unless you're really with fellow reporters or in a situation like this where it's just us and we can let our hair down a little bit, as it were. You never know who's there. I remember years ago, Connie and I, we had both been real busy and we agreed Friday afternoon we didn't have cases or depositions. We'd sit down together and have lunch. So we got there and we had both had just terrible couple of weeks, and idiot attorneys, people that don't pay well, one attorney that would try to involve us in the deposition, someone that we love and used to us all the time, but everyone would go, Sue, you know, in the middle of the deposition, what did that name of that hospital used to be? And I'm trying to report, and I don't want to put myself, you know, I'm not testifying, but you know, just things that are yucky and awful, and people that we couldn't understand, and lots of research, and people that wanted things yesterday. So we both just started just having a grand old time. No. What did he say? Lord, yeah, you had to go do him. He is awful. He doesn't pay good. We're just fussing. And in the middle of our fuss, as we're waiting for our food to come, we noticed that 2 attorneys and 2 judges were having lunch in the booth behind us. Oops. The tape recorder, well, there were high boos, you know, and usually you don't go in and do a sweep of a restaurant, but maybe we better. Easy to do, isn't it? Because even if you work with a firm, court reporting has a real solitary element to it, doesn't it? So it's easy when you see somebody, like you said, the two of you don't see each other that often, to start talking about other reporters or this idiot judge. And just be real careful. That tape recorder or that video is not gossiping or interrupting inappropriately. You've got someone on the stand crying her eyes out. And would you spell that for me, please? You know, you just got to. You've got to be aware of your surroundings. And we've all got that skill. You couldn't write, you couldn't take down if you weren't aware of your surroundings. But tape recorders aren't doing that. And the final thing is generosity of spirit. I always tell this story on my sainted mama, but Thelma was a great cook. And I developed her baking skills, and sadly to this day, let me bake a cake and eat the whole thing. It's a terrible thing, but I love the sweets. But Thelma was a sweet lady, aged beautifully and graciously, but Southern women, this is actually, there's a craftiness to women. Sorry, sir, but there is. And Southern women will have a wry way of saying things. My mama used to tell, when I first started dating, and I'd bring home some raggedy fellow from college. This was the 60s, and they'd have an earring and long hair. And I mean, we country folk. Mama had chickens in the backyard, and this was strange to her. I mean, we were still in Durham, but Duke University is very cosmopolitan in Durham, at least at that time. Now it's different, but was still real country. We didn't live quite in the woods. I've got a baby sister that lives in Lizard Lake, North Carolina. And you know what? Nobody's ever believed me, but on True TV, there's a TV show now about a repo, people that repo vehicles. Repo in Lizard Lake, I think is the name of it. And it's a garage, two old bubbas, and my baby sister, in fact, her car died, and she got them to tow it for her to the guy that was going to fix it. But it's real. So look at True TV. I've forgotten which night it comes on, but you know that TV channel, True TV, they have a lot of police shows and Most Daring. A lot of it's silly. But there's a new show about Lizard Lick. I mean, we weren't that far out in the country, Lizard Lick, North Carolina. Yes, promise. Look on a map, it's there. But Mama would look at these random fellas I'd bring home and go, when they'd leave, y'all come back when you don't have so long to stay. On the surface, it sounds like a pleasant bye-bye. But the reality is, don't you come back here and see my daughter anymore, you old raggedy fella. It's what it says. Well, Thelma, being the great cook she was, had neighbor ladies and people from the church always wanting her recipes. And being a Southern lady, very gracious and generous, would always give the recipes and leave something out. Okay, who in this room does not know about that little trick? Yes, you do. She'd leave out the cinnamon, the type, you know, whatever gives it its oomph, or the fact that a little vanilla will brighten it up. Just so hers is always going to be a little bit better than yours. Don't do that with fellow reporters. Tell them everything. Be generous of spirit. Yes, I know that there are reporters that steal from other reporters. I have issues with that. When I worked my first 13 years as an official and did not miss but one day of work because of illness. And lately I've had some real problems. I picked up some kind of bizarre thing. I'm not contagious, but it's had me down for the count. And I've got a gal that covers for me that loves my judges, loves my court, loves the judges, loves their court. It's not mine. But has found that and is glad to cover and doesn't really want to take it. But the one time I was out before, which has been about 10 years ago, when I got back, there was a note on my little table that I have right in front of the bench with her business card going, "If you get tired of Sue, please call me." And of course, they gave it to the judge, and the judge left it for me to see because they weren't tired of me, which is nice. Tacky. You like that, don't you? And somebody could be doing that to you today. They could be on the golf course and see some attorney and go, "I know you use such and such a firm. She's just wonderful, but I know she's overworked. Why don't you give me a call?" You don't know. Now I've made you paranoid. You want to go out and hunt down fellow reporters. But people will do that, won't they? I don't know if it's a big problem where you are, but actually it isn't that bad in Augusta right now. We've got a shortage of reporters, so if you would like to try the South, it has things to, well, like everywhere else, there are good things and bad things, but there are jobs in Augusta. But actually maybe not for long. Georgia has not had a problem in the world. When I talk about states with issues about tape recorders and videos, this year, this the austerity and that money, and it's our profession, the law in Georgia has said every proceeding, I can't recall the way it's written, and I know I'm not saying it in the proper way, but it essentially says every proceeding will be taken down by a certified court reporter. Yay! Good. Now they're trying to change it to by any electronic device. That don't sound like me. I ain't an electronic device. So it's not been passed. Our lobbyist is fighting it. I think it comes up for a vote in June. I do Tennessee borders, Georgia, and I do workshops up toward the mountains, beautiful part of Georgia, because a lot of Georgia reporters up there are certified in Tennessee and vice versa, so they can work in both states since they're right together. And I was told by a gal that is an official in Tennessee who emailed me. I'm doing a workshop there in the fall. She's in Chattanooga, and she emailed me a copy of a letter she got from the state of Tennessee that said, effective July 31, all officials are relieved of their duties and are being replaced with tape recorders. It just happened just like that. All of them. Again, not a huge state with a lot of reporters, but still, that's a blow. They were given 6 months' notice. That's not for depositions, that's court work only, in every court. Now, you know, I mentioned a few minutes ago there's not much we can do about it, and I did use the expression idiot attorneys. Attorneys are going to become our best friends with these sorts of things. I know, Diane, you mentioned a comment about Superior Court and recordings. Okay, I'm thinking of Tennessee. Every legal proceeding replaced with a tape recorder. Murder case, capital murder case, and a defense attorney. And a company like that Yoo-Hoo company in Jacksonville that says they'll go in and mic and produce a perfect transcript every time. Gang members as witnesses. Anybody thinking where I'm thinking? A DA that is a low talker, as they used to say on Seinfeld. He talks like this. You can barely understand what they're saying. Don't you hate them when they talk like this? A low talker. A witness that's angry and agitated, that may be a co-defendant who's given a little bit better deal, whose knowledge of the English language is street slang, and talks 50 miles an hour. I challenge someone who is not there to produce a perfect transcript. And here I'm not talking about affect and effect. I'm talking about words. A defense attorney's job is to, like ours is to take down and to prepare transcripts. Their job is real simple. It's to vigorously represent their client to the best of their ability. That is their canon. When I say canon, how is that canon spelled?
C-A-N-O-N.
C-A-N-O-N. Don't you put two N's in the middle of that canon. Don't make it go boom. We're talking here canon of ethics. Easy error to make. That's what their job is. If I were a defense attorney with a capital case and a tape recorder and some random person in some faraway state or city that prepared the transcript, would I be inclined to appeal? Every time. And I know in a couple of states where they have gone to tape recorders, because of the cost of appeal, because the number of appeals doubled, they've gone back to court reporters. The quality, we're there. And darn it, we're accountable. How many people signed their work? How many professions require a signature of certification? Not that many. I think about my former profession as a teacher, and although I love teachers and admire them, there's some bad teachers out there. And it's easy to get around that. You're in a classroom all by yourself with the kids. Well, the kids are kind of slow this year. I don't have parent support. There are all kinds of ways for them to get around that they've not done a very credible job as a teacher. The test is too hard. They didn't give us anything to prepare the kids for the test. But we're accountable. We say what we have prepared is accurate. To the best of our ability, of course, but still, it's tough. And some random tape recorder transcriber can't do that, isn't doing that. And the things they can't do, they can't interrupt, can they, when they can't hear? And we're back to professionalism again. I know reporters that are shy about interrupting. Or they think or pray the little backup machine's going to pick up what they can't hear. And how many times does that work good for you? Not every now and then you'll get something, but not very often. And attorneys are going to keep talking. If they see you reporting, if they see you writing, they think something's there, don't they? And you hear them talking and you think, oh Lord, they're catching all of this. I'm not, but they're talking. I better not interrupt. And it becomes this bizarre little thing between the two of you. Don't do that. I don't interrupt for anything unless I can't hear. And then you've got to interrupt. I don't care how often it is. There's no other way to get the record. And it's something a tape recorder can't do. If people are talking over one another, you got to stop it. Unless you can report, unless you work in stereo, and I don't. I'm mono all the way. That sounded odd, but you know what I mean. You're reporters, you understand. But the reality is, I think you'll find if New Jersey does try to push for that, I don't know how long it would take, but eventually they'll realize, because attorneys will have a fit once they start getting transcripts not from a court reporter. And if they don't, that's scary, but they will. I've been here many times. I know the quality of questions and follow-up questions I get via email from folks in this neck of the woods, and y'all are good. There are a couple of states that frighten me. I won't tell you which they are. Many of you know I've got a home study course that, actually that's accurate on my website. If you know of anybody that for some reason can't come to a workshop, and it's not pre-approved in Georgia, but it is approved by NCRA, and that needs it, and I have people all over the country that take it. Not that many every year because in-person workshops are really better, but I'll have people take it. And there are a couple of states that just scare me to death. The quality of the, I use in my workshop theirs, THEIRS. That's possessive, belonging to them. And about 50% of the court reporters put an apostrophe in it. That makes me cringe pretty good. There's no apostrophe, it's possessive on its face. Prima facie possessive. Ooh, love that. That's not right, but you know what I mean. Let me check the time real quick. Anybody feeling breakish? You cold?
Yeah, they definitely cold.
Okay, I don't know how to fix it. Fix it.
Okay, hey, you're done. It's over with. You can go home now. Oh, wait, you already are home because you took a Jeff Justice seminar program online. Good thinking, smart for you. So just go ahead and either email us the PDF or send it in snail mail, whichever way you were doing this. We're great at getting it back to you along with your letter of completion. And remember, we have plenty more programs like this, so hopefully you will come to us time and time again when you need your CEUs, okay? Take care. Remember to always laugh more, stress less, and avoid getting burned out. Take care from Jeff Justice Seminars.